Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. How are we feeling on a beautiful Wednesday here in Toronto?
I wish the look of the guy while he was digging into Freddie Freeman's glove was a feeling. Because that guy was so happy to be doing that and thought it was so cool last night during the World Series. Freddie Freeman tried to catch the ball, and this guy and his buddy grabbed his arms and grabbed the baseball.
Mookie Betts.
Yeah,
Mookie Betts. Yeah, I was going to, the first time I let it slide, I'm like, it's Mookie in right field. But, yes, you're right. Like,
that
this
guy's
guy.
A complete dope, though.
Well,
I'm actually
he
embarrassed
loved it, though. He loved it.
He was watch him try to rip this out of his glove. Everyone's seen it if you're listening. Like, people have been comparing it to trying to get the tennis ball out of your dog's mouth, you know, and your dog just will not hand the tennis ball over. I have no idea what he thought he was accomplishing. Obviously, they got kicked out last night. There was word this morning that those two have tickets for the game tonight and were of the impression they could show up tonight. Major League Baseball and the Yankees have stepped in and said, absolutely not. You two will not be at the game tonight.
Really?
I don't know if that's a lifetime ban, but they're out. Yeah, they're not going to the game tonight. They're out.
That's it. I mean, I'm fine with that. The weirdest thing is, I don't know if you guys saw, this guy, like Gronk knows this guy. Gronk
He's a hockey player in Arizona.
Yeah, he's a hockey player.
What?
It's embarrassing. That's what I'm like, that guy's a complete dope. Like, he looked like he was digging for a cheeseburger.
It was a crazy. I have never seen anything like that. Like there are things that have happened this week, and this might be my ranking tomorrow. I might do a ranking today. Things I've never seen that I never thought I would see, like Anthony Richardson again, who got benched today. We'll get to that later on.
Yeah.
But him just saying, I need a breather. Quarterback's taking a playoff. I've never seen it. Never thought I would see it. And that move last night by the Bronx Bartman. Or whatever it is. Although in New York, they love the guy because it wasn't going against the Yankees. It was going against the Dodgers. And the Yankees won the game last night, so everyone's happy in New York and all the Yankee fans are happy. But his buddy's in there too. Drags his buddy into it. But I have no idea what that guy thought he was accomplishing trying to rip that ball out of Mookie Betts' glove.
They're 100 drinks deep.
Deep into it.
But don't you think he could have, tried to hide it, maybe knock the glove a little bit? Fan interference, it happens all the time in certain situations like that. But, that was so deliberate. That's why he should have got tossed and should be banned from the World Series. Anyways.
Guys, let's be honest here. Do you actually not, this guy could sell his tickets, get two different ones, put a hoodie on and some shades, and you think they're going to pick this guy out with a Yankees hoodie on and glasses? And
Very doubtful.
Doubtful. That guy's going to the game tonight, and he'll snap a pic in the 8th inning saying, "Hi, I'm here.
He'll walk
I'll
in with
bet
a COVID
money."
mask on. That's what he'll do, and they're not going to be able to do anything.
That's
with
it. A hoodie, a COVID mask, glasses, and a Yankees hat. That guy's going to the game. He's going to the game.
The only thing is electronic, tickets now.
That's where he's stupid by he announced that he had tickets for tonight's game.
Right.
I think he could have kept that one low-key. I will say one thing. Mookie Betts, good on him for saying, you know what, it's over with. Those guys are dumb. That was stupid. Nobody got hurt. I don't care, and we're moving on. Because he could have blown that. Look at how fired up he is.
He puts so much effort into
Dude, the other guy's
open.
grabbing Mookie's right arm and trying to hold it down, and he's digging in that glove like there's a pot of gold in there.
I honestly, I am glad that Mookie didn't come out and say, I was assaulted or something like that.
Exactly.
Right. He could have gone down that angle and I've been assaulted or this and that. You know what? Because he knows he's in the driver's seat. He knows he's going to win a World Series here, one of these games, whether it's tonight or it's, later this week.
Right.
But those guys, I don't know. I just thought, you're right. You have 100 drinks.
It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world, but it was
jail
stupid.
time or anything.
No,
it's just it's goofy behavior is what it is.
It's
goofy behavior.
And for everyone that's thinking, oh, they're so bad, just take a real good look back down memory lane at some of the things you've done, okay? If you people are just saying, oh, this guy jailed, whatever.
No,
just take a serious look at yourself and some of the stupid things you've done. This guy just happened to be caught on television looking like a real dork. It's not the end of the world.
No, it's
man.
not the end of the world. And again, in New York, I don't get the impression it's that big of a deal because of who he did it against. Like, again, I mentioned Bartman, and I was reading a thread on that this morning, that what Bartman did, Steve Bartman, was way less egregious. All Bartman did was there was a ball down the line. There were 10 people that put their hands up. Anyone could have been Bartman. He happened to be the one to catch it. But why he turned into Bartman was because it burned the Cubs.
Yeah.
And this is a classic example of how fans react to stuff like this. Because he was going through the whole jaws of life thing with Mookie Betts instead of Aaron Judge, he's a hero. And they love him. And, the Yankees won. And you're right about Mookie Betts. Like, he could have pulled the arm in a sling, neck brace move, like, I'm suing this guy. Because that could have been dangerous. They're ripping at the guy's arm, and his arm's, like, kind of hyperextended at one point.
Well, that's the thing. We said no harm, no foul. But if that guy blows his arm out or his shoulder, then it's like, then you got serious
Then
problems.
you've got assault charges coming. Like, at
That's
that
right.
point, then it does actually cross a line into kind of a darker territory. But if you look at the whole, like, this whole Yankee scene, Yankee fan, Yankee crew is just a cast of characters, maybe unlike anything you see in sports, because there is a guy right beside the two idiots last night. And if we can put up the still picture, he thinks he's the 27th man on the roster. There's 26 guys on the roster. This guy, watch how this guy is dressed. This is worse than golf cleat guy, golf glove guy, anything we've seen on a golf course, anything we've seen, I think, at a basketball game. If you're courtside and you're decked out, show the picture again, guys, because there is a guy right beside the two that is wearing a base running sliding pad. The sliding pad that protects your fingers when you slide into second or third or into home plate.
Way.
He has an official Yankees jersey on with the Yankees mock turtleneck underneath and the World Series Yankee hat. This guy has $1,250 worth of Yankee gear, official World Series Yankee gear, and a sliding pad on. Right beside him. Look at it. It's green.
Is that with the white?
The guy with the green pad hanging over the right field. Look at him. That guy, this guy right there on the left, that guy thinks he's the 27th man on the roster.
What is that? He's got a glove on?
He's got a sliding pad in. Like, he's taking a lead, and he's Willie Mays, and he's going to steal third and steal home.
Full-blown mock neck, too. Mock
Yes.
neck,
I didn't even
real
see that.
jersey,
Oh,
all
yeah.
of it.
That guy's the worst of the bunch, man. The guy's got the full Yankee gear. He's such a loud New Yorker, Yankee fan, Laker fan, Cowboy fan. Like, I'll paint him with all the same brushes.
Yeah,
That
and you
guy
talk
just
about the
screams
players'
it.
reaction, Hayes. Like, that was part of the – like, it was just a little bit when you refer to Bartman. Like, Moises Alou's reaction out there
Didn't help.
part – no, it didn't because he went bonkers. He
Yeah.
was like,
Right.
you idiot.
Yeah, started
If
yelling
Moises
at him.
Alou just had ran back to left field or wherever, it might have been a little bit less for Bartman, but I think Alou's reaction, it piled on top of Bartman.
100%.
100%.
100%. Like,
It was
he was
childish
pointing at him.
almost.
He was pointing at him basically like, you ruined our life.
He
You
was
ruined
stomping
the game.
his feet.
Yes.
If you like childish
I gotta
Moises
see that.
Alou was like, dude, you got to go home from the park and you weren't ready for it and you're pissed off at your parents.
See if Joe from the bridge can pull up the Bartman, because we should break it down. There are other people that are reaching for it.
Yes.
And he just happens to come up with it. But if somebody else came up with it, their life
They're
is
Bartman. They're
Right.
Bartman. Their lives
Do you think
turn upside
Bartman's
down.
ever able to live a normal life? Like, do you
Not in
think he's-
Chicago.
not. But he
No.
looks different now. He could be 300 pounds. Like he could walk by us on the street. You wouldn't recognize him if he wasn't wearing a hat and he wasn't this skinny little guy. Like, he might be a different looking human right now.
Well, I'm
But-
sure. That was 20 years ago. I think it was in 2003, 21 years ago. He was wearing a Walkman. Like, that's how long ago it was.
I'll never forget a green turtleneck, a Walkman, and a little
Little Cubs hat.
Yeah,
He had
a little
his
Cubs hat and a
Glasses
Walkman.
on, and you could see, like, they kept panning to him, and he was looking around. He's like, I'm in big trouble. Like, he
Like,
knew
that's
it.
when you get up and get the hell out of there. He stuck it out for a while.
I
the
think
rest
he
of the
was
game.
afraid, Noodles. I think he was thinking, if I get up and I try to get up those stairs, they're going to tackle me. Like,
Dude,
I
the
don't.
look
I
in
got to
the-
wait till
you
everyone
described
leaves.
the best moment when he looked around and realized that everyone hated his guts and he was in serious trouble.
Well, and again, he had it on his Walkman, and I think the radio guys, he was listening to the radio, they're like, there's an idiot in left field who grabbed the ball. Moises Alou is furious, and he's probably listening to this thinking.
And then he clued in. He's like, that's me.
That's me.
And they're like, let's go down to the field. Here's Rob, for WGR Radio. And the guy's probably like, I'm staring at him right now. He's got glasses, a mock turtleneck. They're probably like, get him. And he's probably absolutely soiling himself. You talk about the underpants cam.
Oh,
Bartman
my
might be
God.
at the top. Bartman might be at the top.
Big time.
And you're right, Alou didn't help. Furthermore, they lost that game. And then they still had a chance to win Game 7. People forget about that. It's just like Buckner. Buckner, passed the bag. That was Game 6.
Yeah.
They could have won Game 7, and then Buckner, nobody remembers Buckner.
Nothing.
And if the Cubs win Game 7, no one remembers Bartman. It just becomes a footnote. The guy, what are you going to do? What if?
It's the built-in excuse.
Yes,
that's what it is. Like Buckner between the legs, yes, it's devastating. You're right. They could have won the next game, and it would have been a joke. The guys would have been bugging him for the rest of his life, going, "Hey, you remember your
at
cost
the
us a
parade?
game."
Hey, Buckner through the legs. What a funny story that was.
Yeah. Instead, the guy's life. Although I think didn't Boston re-engage him as a city and stuff
After they won, same thing with Bartman and the Cubs.
Bartman wanted nothing to do with it.
He didn't accept their invitation. Remember when they won in 16?
Yeah.
They tried to basically say bygones are bygones, and he was like, "Screw that, man! You guys, I had to leave Chicago. I couldn't live in the greater Chicago area for the last 13 years." And that was a part of it too. It was like the misery of the Cub fan, the misery of the Red Sox fan in '86, where they had gone 70 years or whatever up to that point. And there's a Toronto connection here. If I don't know what could possibly happen, but if the Leafs were in a position to win the conference championship, or we're in a cup final and something happened and there was one particular GOAT player or fan, this city would erupt.
You get run
How's
out.
a fan going to affect a hockey
Well,
game,
I'm
man?
not sure how that could happen. Unless it was a scenario where, Matthews was walking to the rink and some guy fell and took his knees out.
Some
Like, hey, I
delivery
love
guy
you.
dropped a dishwasher on his ankle.
It's not funny.
That's how a
Fuck
fan.
on.
That's the only way a fan could become Bartman.
But that would get out. There would be reports.
that guy would be Bartman in the city, and he'd never be allowed in the city again. Just wheeling in,
Could you
Amazon delivery, heads up there, guy with the cap on, and it's Matthews, and the washing machine goes on his ankle. and
Takes
it's
him
game
out. He's out for Game 6.
No,
Yeah.
They
my
lose.
God,
They lose
don't
Game
even
7.
Joke about stuff like
It's
that.
not
We've
funny.
had-
You're right.
No,
it's
it's
not.
not.
Funny.
we've
It's
had
not
some
funny.
weird
But
stuff
that's the
happen
only
this week.
way some kind of random fan could affect the outcome of a game.
Yes.
Unless it's something crazy where, I don't know, a fan gets too excited and they got an empty net and somebody jumps on the ice and they got to blow it down and then they come back and score that, instead of sealing the game. Like something crazy
Something
like that.
extreme like that.
Extreme. Like you're about to ice it with an empty net and somebody throws something and the ref blows it down and then they don't get an empty netter, and then the next shift the team ties it and they lose in overtime. Something insane like that could happen. Like again, I'm being crazy, but that's the only thing I could actually see that where a fan interaction could cost, something like that in hockey. Maybe I'm wrong. Like
No, I'm with you. I mean, it's got to be something extreme
Crazy.
like that, where someone does something on the bench or scales the glass or whatever, and it leads to some crazy outcome.
I will say this though. Think about this, and the only one that I have just from Toronto recent memory, and it was just sent to us. The high stick for Dougie Gilmour, like Kerry Fraser's name around this area.
Kerry, there's still Leaf fans that would not shake his hand if he offered it. Like just will not do it.
Now that's a Bartman-esque, but it's at a different level and all of that. But every time I love Kerry. We've worked with him at TSN, and he's a great person.
Yeah,
but
that's
every
the guy,
time
though.
His name comes up,
That's
there
Toronto's
is a Leaf
Toronto's
fan
guy.
that's got something to say. Apparently, I was on the road with the guys the other day, and Sam Cicerello told me a story about, I think, one of the producers who worked at TSN, and he's moved on since, was so mad at him, like went at Kerry, like at a, in a future game or something. He was producing a game and went down and got in his face. It was like, you cost, like was yelling at him. Like,
That's
at a different time.
very unstable behavior.
That
but
is
I'm also not
unstable
surprised.
behavior.
I mean, I'm a little surprised because it's in a professional setting.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a producer representing a company that's got access to the refs, and he just
And he's
bypasses
yelling,
any code.
like he put his personal feelings instead of I think I don't know if he's producing or directing or something. I can't remember how the story went, but I made a mental note going like that's not balanced.
That's wild
to go
behavior,
and
but
yell
I
at somebody
can't
like
say
that.
I'm that shocked. And you know, it is something when the team wins, how everyone just breathes, and you know, all of a sudden everyone's welcome back. And again, that happened with the Sox when they won in 2004. It was like, Buckner, it's all good. Don't worry. Sorry, we were a little bit harsh, you know, for the last.
Well, I think the
18
Cubs,
years.
when they won the World Series, they offered Bartman a World Series ring.
That's right. And I'm pretty sure he declined it. And like there's a Raptors element to that. Like on Saturday, Vince is going up into the rafters. I don't believe that happens if they don't win in 2019. Like I think them winning that championship allowed a lot of people to just put the past behind them. And a lot of fans just said, whatever, I'm over it. I had an amazing run as a fan. They won a championship. It's all good. And like this is pretty extreme to the point. And it's not that Vince wasn't a great Raptor or a great player and very significant member of the organization's history. But, you know, if the Raptor fan never had the ability to breathe after they won, I don't know what the reaction would be because it's still polarizing. I'd say it's still 50-50.
Dude, he still have his jersey hung up in the rafters because this is the look over here season. Because next year and the year after are going to be the same.
But it's easier to do the look over here when you won in 19, though, is my point.
Right.
Like, if they never won,
I know, dude, but if they didn't win, they would be still grasping for some kind of positivity in the past where it's like, we have to look over here, and there's nothing. We don't have the 2019 championship. I think this would have happened regardless because there would be no championship for everyone to say, it's okay, Vince, we've got our championship, but we're still going to honor you. They still need the look over here.
They would, but I think the reaction would be more visceral. I think more people would be like, what have you guys done to throw this at us now? Like Masai, you know, is using a bullet here. Masai Ujiri is very revered. Masai's kind of been pushing this forward, bring Vince in. And it's even more extreme than just Vince. I was watching the game the other night. There's a Gillette commercial with Grady Dick featuring Tracy McGrady. Like McGrady is back in Toronto.
I saw that.
Like T-Mac is back in the Toronto fold doing stuff with the Raptors.
What was his exit? I don't remember his exit.
It wasn't uglier than Vince's, but it was real close.
Was that to Houston or Orlando?
No, he went to Orlando. Now, that was a CBA issue where the Raptors got really screwed because they changed the CBA. I wouldn't say it was in reaction to McGrady, but it was close. He left after only a few years because he had the ability to. So they've changed that since in terms of player control, in terms of options, in terms of how long you can control a young player. So he got out early, and his explanation was, well, this is Vince's team. I'm not going to get a chance to play. And he was bent out of shape. He didn't play as a rookie, even though he's coming out of high school and wasn't ready to play. But his return may have been nastier than Vince's. Like, I remember when McGrady came back for the first time, I had never seen anything like that in Toronto. Like, people were furious with him, hated him, booed him incessantly, like absolutely hated T-Mac. And now T-Mac's back doing stuff on TV.
In all fairness, it's a Gillette commercial. It does seem to be connected to Toronto sports when that commercial generally airs. But
now maybe he's doing that with different players around the league, and this is Grady Dick up in Toronto, and maybe it's somebody else in Memphis, and somebody else in Houston, and somebody else in Orlando. I don't know. I'm just saying that there was a company like Gillette 15 years ago would be like, we can't do that. Like, people up here will be like, what are you talking about? You can't have that.
It's almost a generation, and probably the sales team has no idea of the vitriol that would come towards him because it's, you know, you're 10, 15 years past it. So you got a young sales guy who has no idea of what he went through in Toronto. So it's like, put him in there.
Yeah,
no
for
problem.
sure. And again, it's softened, and like no one's yelling and screaming or boycotting because of that. That's not what I'm even suggesting. I was kind of caught off guard. I saw it the other night. I'm like, that's interesting. Tracy McGrady and Vince are kind of back in the Toronto fold of things. And that certainly wasn't the case for a long, long time. Ron Francis coming up in 10 minutes. Your old teammate, Ron Francis, will join us. And obviously Seattle's in town tomorrow, and we've got some news in the NHL. McDavid out 2 to 3 weeks with the ankle injury. It sounds as if they've dodged a bullet, like not a significant injury where he's out for months.
I was going to say, like, what do you think that's a sprain? Because, like, what do you make of that too? Like, the way he went into the boards, I kept thinking there might be a chance he broke a bone in there or something. Like
Could be, or a
twisted,
mild
right?
sprain instead of a really bad one. Regardless, I think the Edmonton Oilers still got their work cut out for them because they've been kind of junk. It's the only best way I can describe the Oilers, kind of junk. Like, they haven't been good. And now they're losing this guy for up to 3 weeks. Like,
I think it's good for them. I think it allows some players to get their act together.
Okay, Noodles, but they better do it, or they could be just in a rotten situation again because they've had tough time scoring goals. We talked about their power play. This guy's a big deal, and he hasn't been great himself either.
Well, that's what I mean. I think it's a good rest for him, and it allows some of these other guys to get their act together.
Well,
like
they better do it. Okay, McDavid, when are you coming back? Because the team is a mess, and you're in the same position you were in last year.
Yeah. I mean, it could go that way, but
could go either way. It could go any way.
Or the other guy who's known potentially as the second best player on the planet could drag them into something too. Right?
That's what I think is on the line here. I see it the way you see it, Noodles, or maybe I want to see it that way. That this could actually be a watershed moment for them because the room. This is a shock, right? Like they've been sleepwalking. That's what they've been doing since Game 7, is Edmonton's been sleepwalking. And now you got some news. The big guy's not here. He's not going to drag you out of it. And as of next year, Draisaitl's the highest paid player in the league. And he's won a Hart before when McDavid was injured. And now he steps up onto that top line. And there's no reason he's not the best player on the ice every single night. Because outside of McDavid, maybe McKinnon, maybe Matthews, maybe Kucherov, maybe Makar, maybe – no one's better than him. And Nugent-Hopkins goes into the middle of the ice. It's going to put a spotlight on Hyman because, like, you're not getting any freebies to get off the board now. Like, McDavid's not going to give you a backdoor off your shin pad and in. You're going to have to earn one to get on the game sheet here.
I also think it gives him, if those guys didn't train properly in the off, not properly, you know what I mean, short training in the offseason, that it might give him the rest to come back and like a shot out of a cannon, like with that type of like, hey, I've got some rest and some proper rehab. Like to me, it just something had to give with that team. Maybe this is
And guys,
to galvanize them possibly.
Well,
and I want the same thing for
Yep,
you guys.
for sure.
I want the same thing for you guys. I'm not saying this is going to go down the tubes. But if they're not careful and guys don't step up and a lot of guys elevate, we're not just talking about Draisaitl. Their issues have gone way deeper than that. They need some defensemen. It's just everybody. They don't look good. So they better hope that this is a galvanizing moment.
Their goalie, their three best defensemen, and their players outside of Draisaitl. I think he's been patchy, but he's shown some flash. Hyman, RNH. Like their best player, their most consistent forward has been Arvidsson. He's looked good. Like they're outside of that, I think Jeff Skinner's looked pretty good some nights. But they've got players, but those guys have to get their act together and produce. To your point, not just play, but Hyman, RNH, guys like that, Draisaitl, they've got to be better because it's not Derek Ryan who's going to drag them out of it.
It's not. But
it's going to be, I think their third line is sharp. Like you look at that, that was the third line that was intact in the playoffs last year. But it's the top of the roster. Their best players have to be their best players, and they haven't been.
Well, it is a fork in the road because if he misses 10 games, and they lose 7 of them, they're in trouble. Like that. Then you're 20 games in, and you're behind the 8 ball. It's not, what it was last year. And this probably takes him out of the Hart conversation, I would think. Takes him probably out of the Art Ross conversation, I would think. He had a slow start to begin with. Now the injury. That's the unpredictable nature of every season where you presume health and you make your obvious choices that Ohtani will win, that Mahomes will win, that McDavid will win. But every season's different. Yeah. And now he's hurt, McDavid, and, I think the rest of the league, all the star players can say, all right, I'll take this. This is my year. I can grab a Hart Trophy here. You know?
I wouldn't count him out. I swear to God, if that guy misses 8 games or not, or even less.
What about the
what's
first
schedule?
9 or 10, though, where he didn't play that well?
Yeah,
Like, doesn't that count?
It does, but if he comes back, if this guy comes back and wins a scoring race, you wouldn't put him in the Hart conversation?
It could be in the conversation for sure. I'll take your action. I think this takes him out.
I'm not betting.
I think it takes him out of it. I think the fact that he didn't start well to begin with, and now he's banged up, and could he have a final 60 games where the guy's clearly the best player in the world? Absolutely, he could do that. But this is one more hurdle that they've got to overcome.
Yeah.
Struddy will join us today. Jason Strudwick coming up. We got a little arbitration we're going to play in an hour. We got arbitration cooking today. Look forward to that. Dreg's coming up. Game 5 of the World Series tonight. Ron Francis will join us. The Kraken are in town. They're down at Scotiabank tomorrow night. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Struddy coming up in about a half an hour. Arbitration still to come. Game 5 of the World Series tonight. The Blues did not have fun in Ottawa last night. And a lot of people were thinking it could be because they spent a couple of nights in Montreal, a night in Toronto. Maybe they were just not in a great position. Where Seattle,
rookie dinner or something like that. Maybe.
Exactly. Where the Kraken, though, they rolled into Montreal and they had themselves a party last night. They put an 8 spot on the board, and I would guess they got out of there quickly. And now they're in Toronto tonight, waiting for their game tomorrow because the Kraken roll through town for the only time all year, being a Western team. And here's the GM of the Seattle Kraken and former teammate of yours, here's Ron Francis. How you doing, Ron?
I'm doing well, guys. Yourself?
Yeah, we're doing well. Do you concern yourself with the modern player having a night off in a town like Montreal, Toronto, Vegas? How would you compare the way you feel about young players, night off, big city, to maybe your era back in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, no, it's. I think it's probably a little bit different. Anytime we're coming east, if we have the opportunity, we do try and come out 2 days early. So we actually flew to Montreal on Sunday. So we were in there Sunday night. The guys got together for dinner and then practiced Monday and played last night. So far so good, I guess, on them staying focused on the task at hand.
How heavily are you involved with the travel, Ronnie? Or do you call the shots like get in there early, get out there, that's a good city, let's go there? Are you all over that? Is that your area?
I have a say in it. Usually once the schedule comes out, we sit down with the coaching staff, and team services, talk about where we're going to be, what makes the most sense. A lot of it is just making sure you get the proper rest, right? I never played in the West in 23 years in the league. I never played in the West. It's been an eye-opening experience for me, and just learning when you should travel, when you shouldn't travel, has kind of been sort of a key part of the learning process for me. Like, we had a game earlier this year. We played in Nashville on a Tuesday, and we were playing back in Seattle on a Thursday. It's a 5-hour flight, but our decision was to get home right after the game and get back to our time zone. So even though it was 4 o'clock body time, it was 2 o'clock Seattle time. But, we just thought it made the most sense to do that. So a lot of little nuances you pick up as you go through this process over the years.
Well, you guys are off to a pretty good start. Again, we referenced that game last night. You beat up on the Habs. You're above 500. What do you make of your team so far through 10 games?
I'd say it's been interesting. I don't think we've kind of hit our stride yet. We're still trying to figure things out. New coaching staff, new players, both via free agency and some younger players joining our lineup. So we're still kind of tweaking, trying to figure out who plays with who and what gives us the best possibility to win. But I like our team. I like our depth, and I think if we're going to have success, that's going to be sort of our key, right? We're going to need production up and down the lineup from everybody, and worked for us a couple of years ago, and we're trying to get back to that this year.
Ron, you go and bring in Brandon Montour, who comes fresh off a Stanley Cup, to add to the depth of your group, but also some winning pedigree. Was that the thought process in bringing in somebody like that to help the depth of your group?
Yeah, no, I mean, anytime you can add guys to your locker room that have won Stanley Cups, I think that's important. Brandon did that, played a lot of minutes for Florida in the playoffs. Also bringing in him and Stevenson, I think we bring a little swagger into our locker room, which is never a bad thing either. So, but he's been tremendous right from day one. His attitude, work ethic, team camaraderie has been outstanding. So, besides his good play on the ice for us, everything he's done in the locker room and the off-ice organization has been fantastic as well.
With Ron Francis ahead of Kraken Leafs tomorrow night. You mentioned new coach. Bilesman there, that's a guy who's, he's done it before. He's won. He's been around for a long, long time. How long does it take, in your opinion, for a new coach and new staff to really put their imprint on the team and have the team playing in the fashion that they want them to play?
Yeah, I mean, you hope it happens sooner rather than later. I think it's still a little bit of a working process for us. The thing is, Dan was in our organization for the past couple of years. So he was at, training camps in the past. He was at development camps in the past. So there's familiarity with our players. There's familiarity with especially our young guys. For instance, Riker Evans and Ty Kartje and Shane Wright, who came through the system and spend time with Dan and CV. So, I think being a part of it, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. There's tweaks maybe to the way we were playing that we want to do, but there is still a process of making sure everybody's doing what you're expecting of them, getting to know the personalities on a more day-to-day basis, and how they respond to either pats in the back or criticism, and as we build that. But I think Dan and his staff have done a good job so far trying to navigate that, and I'm sure he would tell you he doesn't feel he's there yet, but we're continuing to move in the right direction, which is positive.
Ronnie, we've been talking a lot in Toronto about the power play, and for a lot of years, 4 or 5 years, we went out in the first power play unit together, which I think gives me street cred as being a power play genius. I think you might agree with that. And I want to know how you don't, I don't even know if you do this, but when you watch a power play that struggles, do you just not want to go down there and say, guys, this is how things are going to go down here? Or is that just that's coaches, I'm staying away from that, and that's their issue to solve?
No, I think it's a fine line. I mean, you hire the coaches to do the job, but, what I'd like to say to my staff is, hey, I get it. I played on the power play. I coached the power play for 2.5 years in Carolina. I understand how difficult it can be at times, and how frustrating it can be at times. I'm here. You want my opinion on something. You want me to look at something and tell you what I see. I'm happy to do that. I'm not going to come down here after the game and kind of shove it down your throat, but I'm here if need be, kind of thing. And, that's kind of the way I've operated. And our staff has been good. And they might say, this is kind of what we're thinking, or what do you see? And then you have that opportunity to kind of use your experience from the years in the league to hopefully find a solution to help.
Ron, how many times have you had to do interviews or been asked about Jessica Campbell being on the bench and her promotion and what she brings to the table for your organization?
Not as many times as Jessica's been asked questions, but it's been really cool being part of Seattle. This our organization, top to bottom, both sides, we're about 44% female, we're 23% BIPOC. Look on the hockey side, we have a female assistant GM, we have female members of our R&D team, we have a female member of our player development team, we have a female member of our medical staff, our head trainer is openly gay. Now we have a female assistant coach. It's, to us as an organization, as long as somebody's capable of doing the job, then we consider them for that opportunity. And, I watched Jess work the last couple of years in CV, and she did a real good job with Dan on his staff. And when Dan was getting the job up here, we talked about if Jess was ready to come up with the opportunity, and Dan felt confident in it. And she's come up, and she's, the thing I like about her is she kind of knows where she's at. She's humble. She works hard. And I think with her background of power skating and skill development, she's able to kind of earn the guy's respect. She doesn't go in there looking for it. She knows she has to earn it, and I think the players appreciate how she approaches things, and it's a process learning the league and continue to do that, but I think she's done well so far, and she'll continue to get better.
With Ron Francis, Executive VP, GM of the Seattle Kraken. Speaking of coaching, unfortunately for Shane Wright, when he showed up at the prospects game, his coaches were the three of us. We were coaching the prospects game at Kitchener, and he was the captain for our team, Noodles and I. He scored early in that game, and then, his draft, he drops, quote-unquote, to you guys, and I think he's had some ups and downs, but by all accounts, he had a great camp, had a really good second half last year, and he's broken camp with your team. What have you seen out of Shane Wright so far?
Yeah, no, he's gotten better and better each year. I remember being on the stage in Montreal when he came up there, and it's a long time ago in my draft, but something similar happened to me. I was supposed to go 5 to Washington. Bobby Carpenter, whose dad was sitting at the Hartford table, was supposed to go 4. Washington really didn't want me, so they made a trade to get in front to go to 3, so that Hartford was more or less stuck with me. And I said to him that night, I said, this is going to be good for you. You come to Seattle, you're not kind of living under the microscope. It's a process. We forget sometimes this kid is still 20 years old, doesn't turn 21 till January. So it's a process to do that. But he's never complained. He's done everything we've asked him to do in this process over the last couple of years. We've watched him continue to get stronger, to continue improving his game, and had a terrific training camp. From day one in camp, you could just see, mentally and physically, he was much stronger and ready for this challenge. And it's a good league, the NHL. It's going to take some time to continue to learn it and improve. But you look at Matty Beniers at 21 and Shane Wright at 20. We feel we've got some pretty good centers as we move forward as an organization.
Absolutely. Leafs Kraken tomorrow night. It should be a fun one. Enjoy it. Enjoy your time, I guess, back in town. And we'll do it again down the road. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
There's Ron Francis, former Leaf alumni.
Yeah.
Maybe he wears a jacket tomorrow night. Who knows? Yeah. Just looking over his stats, man, 1,731 games played.
He was just a pillar of consistency, wasn't he?
I think he's second all time in assists or point. Isn't he second in points or assists? One of them.
He's got 1,249 assists. So, Gretzky's got that record, and no one's touching that, I don't think. But points, I'm not sure it would be because Sid's less than that, right? Like he's at almost at 1,800 points. He had 1,798 points. Sid just got 1,600, I think, last week.
Wouldn't he be up there for games played, though?
Yeah, for sure.
1,700.
Oh, yeah.
Games.
He'd be top 5, I think, in points and games played, for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, some outrageous. I was lucky enough, and Ron is so classy, he'd get me a plaque, for whatever. It was nothing that I did. And I wasn't exactly known as a passer, but I passed him some pucks, or he would pass me a puck, and after, just very quietly, he'd say, do me a favor and get that puck out of the net. And I'd be like, okay. And you'd find out after the game, it was some outrageous milestone, like passing one of the all-time greats on the stat sheet. That was pretty cool. That happened about 4 or 5 times where he'd do me a favor, get the puck out of the net. And I'm like, okay. And then you find out after the game, it's pass this player, pass that player. Some pretty wicked stuff.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Did he what was he like when he got pissed off? Because you guys played in an era people would take a run at him or punch him in the face in a scrum. He was a guy who handled himself, but he seemed like a very quiet, unassuming, just a hard competing guy.
And he was the one thing about Ron, and I don't know if people don't understand, he's a big, he's
6'3", man.
Yeah, he's 6'3", and he's a big dude. It's not like you were just going to push him around. But the one thing I didn't like about playing with him is what am I going to do? It's up to somebody on his line to say, don't ever touch that guy. And I'm there, 5'11", a weasel, and I can't fight my way out of a wet paper bag. I'm like, just please, I just hope some tough guy doesn't do anything stupid, because I don't know what to do here. So I would always fake scrum, just watch your business, get out of here.
Fake scrum.
Yeah. But when he got pissed, he didn't get pissed off hardly. I mean, when you're played that many games, Noodles, this guy's seen everything.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I loved just watching him is because guy that's won 2 Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins. You know, like just looking at him before the dressing room. I looked at everybody. I always wanted to look around and see where guys' heads were at, like whether they're ready to play, looks in their eyes. Gary Roberts, Ron Francis, Kevin Dineen, Brendan Shannon, all of them. And Ronnie had a philosophy: good teams don't lose 2 games in a row. So if we lost one, the next game, you just had to take a look at him. He'd be ready to rock, and he'd be our best player every single time. And, that's why you don't have to necessarily be a raw leader guy with the speeches and all the nonsense. You know, tough practice. You know what tough practice is coming. He'd be the hardest working guy on the ice. It's just really good leadership. Everyone does it in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got the Sault Ste. Marie deep voice accent going there too, man. Like he sounds like means business, Ron Francis.
Yeah, that was so cool. Every time we went to Pittsburgh, I got to go out to dinner with Ron Francis and Mario Lemieux. That's
bad.
A heavy hitter dinner.
Yeah,
it's a free dinner.
That's a heavy hitter.
It's a free dinner too. Probably Ace or him are picking that up. Those guys made some coin.
It's just cool.
Yeah.
It was just cool to get the invite.
For sure.
And that's one. That's probably the table at the spot in Pittsburgh. Like if Mario's calling up saying I'm coming in, table for 3 somewhere, that's going to be dialed in.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, thanks to Ron Francis. And Leafs Kraken tomorrow night. Strutty coming up. Dregs coming up. Dallas Braden on Game 5 of the World Series tonight. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Game 5 of the World Series tonight. Scotty Barnes out for at least a few weeks. Orbital bone issue. He got elbowed in the eye the other night. He's out, and that's going to be a real struggle for the Raptors now to play without him. Quickly's been out. RJ Barrett already missed some games. It's going to be a grind. It's going to be a grind for them, and you know, the fact is you're going to be looking at the draft and the draft lottery and mock drafts a lot this year, I think, if you're a Raptor fan.
Dude, unless there's a guy that's a game breaker like Wemby, well, I don't even care about that stuff. Seriously. If
I
you're
hear
not
you.
getting McDavid, Matthews, Wemby, who cares about the draft? It's a crapshoot.
It generally is, and to put that into perspective, I'm looking at the 1981 NHL draft because we just had Ron Francis on, and Francis went 4th to Hartford. I'd say that was a pretty good pick. Dale Howardchuk went 1st overall in that draft. Winnipeg, pretty good pick.
Yeah.
Al McInnes, 15th to Calgary. Pretty good pick.
Who was second and third?
So Howardchuk went 1st. Doug Smith went 2nd to L.A.
From the Ottawa 67s,
Yep.
Dougie Smith.
And then Bobby Carpenter went 3rd. He had a really good career.
Yeah.
And Ronnie Francis, you know who the Leafs picked 6th? You're looking at it, Noodles, so don't tell him. Don't tell him. You're not going to believe this because Al McInnes is on the board. Al McInnes is waiting for the Leafs to pick him.
Oh, my God. His head might blow off his head.
You know who the Leafs picked at 6? You're not going to believe it.
He, I'll give you a hint. He likes a dark tint on the salad.
Jimmy Benning.
Benning. Jimmy Benning. And listen, Jimmy Benning had a career, a pretty good career.
Player, yeah. The Benning family are good players, yeah.
Do you know who went 8th to Edmonton? Grant Fuhr. Grant Fuhr went 8th. Al McInnes went 15th. 40th in that draft, Chris Chelios.
Oh,
what a draft. And the Leafs took Jimmy Benning and Gary Yaremchuk.
I know the
Gary Yaremchuk. Dude,
from Edmonton.
Do you understand that? What year was that?
1981.
Yeah.
That's 81. You could do 50 years worth of that, man.
You could.
And not just the Leafs every organization could go through hell and go through the missed opportunity. I don't do a ton of reading because the amount of sports we watch. I would read that on a plane. Just missed. That's the name of the book.
I'm going to write that book, man. I'm writing
that
book.
That is an amazing book. Just missed. So you could do like a draft tree or something.
Oh, dude. Start every year is a new chapter. 1981, chapter 10.
Yeah.
No,
Leafs are on
the
the
book
board.
should be called Shoulda, Woulda, Coulda.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
drafted this guy, and you could have drafted that guy, and you should have drafted that
Oh,
guy.
my
Well,
God,
and
yeah.
furthermore, we just heard Ron say that teams were willing to move up. Washington moved up to 3. Leafs could have moved up and got Ron Francis.
Yeah.
Conceivably, the pick was available. Yeah, we like Ronnie. He's all right, I guess. Maybe he drops to us. Although we like this Jimmy Benning kid. We like, and Jim Benning had a good career, but
Yeah.
man, there's some good. Mark Hunter, Grant Fuhr, Garth Butcher was in
Yeah.
1981.
Do you remember Joe Cirella staring at us when we were dropping the puck on the ice? Do you remember him?
He wasn't. He didn't love our mojo that night.
I saw him this summer because he coaches in the Flames organization. I think he's an
Okay.
associate coach for the Wranglers.
What a draft, though, man. Howard Chuck, Francis, Fuhr, McInnes, Chelios. There's a 5-pack for you. Hour 2 coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.